I'm going to create a profile. So we'll do View Profile and create a new profile from select from drawing from here through here to here. Let's say all the way here. Finds a path. If I open my profile, the yellow shows the ground elevation, right? So we have a water level at the reservoir, and then we have a pump that pumps to nodes that are at different elevation. This is typical of all hydraulic systems, right? The elevation of the nodes are going to have some variation. So if I plot the hydraulic grade line, you will see that I have the starting hydraulic grade line, basically my boundary condition in this case, is the water level of the reservoir, same as the yellow line. And then, basically no head losses in between, and then the pump adds energy, right? That's the object of a pump. It adds energy, but as the water moves to get to all my users, you will always see a downward slope, right? So if I'm looking between pump, if I just look at the blue line, which is my hydraulic grade line, everything makes sense, right? That as I move away from my reservoir, the hydraulic grade line is going to slope downwards because there are head losses, right? So I lose energy transporting the water from the pump all the way to J32. So if I want to look at any model, I will see the hydraulic grade line to have an idea of what the boundary conditions are, and the hydraulic grade line should represent exactly what we're seeing here, downward sloping. It's what we're showing here. Now, let's say that you are looking at your data that you got from the field, and all of a sudden, one of your points is shown up here. And you look at it and you say, well, no, because that point is in between these two nodes, so it should be somewhere around here. So it's easy to spot problem nodes. Whereas if I just look at the graph above, basically same drawing, when you compare pressure, you're not comparing apples to apples because pressure varies depending on the elevation. Let me show you that back in my graph. Let's see, profile series options. Instead of hydraulic grade, I'm going to show you pressure. So now look at my pressure. 0, 10, 70. It goes up and down, right? So you couldn't really tell what's going on between J1 and J28. So pressure, because it's missing that elevation component by itself, is very meaningless. So that is the reason that we always recommend you think of your system in terms of hydraulic grade line, right? Even like when you think of pressure zones, it's like, okay, between this grade line and this, 150 and 140, and then I have a PRV, and then that brings it down between like 110 and 90 or whatever, So we just kind of think of our systems as a progression where the head losses get shown in that downward slope. Okay, going back to our exercise. We have data, which I'm about to show you here in the table, for each node under average conditions and for the fire floats. So notice that at the very beginning, all we know is what was measured in the field, which is this observed data, and then we know the initial run without any calibration. J1 didn't have any differences, but J2, there were 5 feet of difference. These were no different. But as we increased the flow in our system, we started to see, oh, look, there's a big difference here. between 138. It should be 138, but it's telling me 146. It should be 143, but it's telling me 150, right? So that's the starting point for our measurements. So if I go back to my Darwin Calibrator, we can see that that we've input all that data we showed there, both for average conditions, but also for the fine flows. And for now, we're going to ignore these errors, but I will show it to you at the end. So the baseline, we say, okay, multiply everything times 1, basically make no adjustments by multiplying by 1. We're not altering the valves in the system. We're not looking for closed valves. We're simply saying, okay, I want to see, without adjusting anything, what that fitness is, what that minimum square difference. So we run that baseline, ignoring that error. And obviously, there's only one solution. And what is that solution? Well, the base fitness is 27. So we know we have to do better than 27. Okay? So any solution that's better than this, we might consider. Now let's look at detail as to how far off we are. If we go here to the solutions, we can see first what adjustments were made. And it's saying, okay, for your demands, I multiplied everything by 1. So 80, originally, I adjusted it to 80. Basically, it made no adjustments, right? So we can confirm that no adjustments were made for demand or roughnesses, and that we did not take into account any status. Now, this is the part that we want to look at in detail. Switch to the simulated results, and you will see what you input as observed hydraulic grade line in the field and what the model came up with without making any adjustments. So it shows us the difference. If you look at the average day, you see that the difference, the maximum difference is 5 feet in hydraulic grade line. But when we increase the flows, we have differences of 8 feet, 7 feet, and here up to 13 feet. And for flow, we can see the differences as well. So we are off. And we can also see this in a graph. We can look at the simulated hydraulic grade versus observed hydraulic grade, and we can look at the simulated flow versus the observed flow. So in a perfect world, all these little data points, notice that these little squares represent your data set. So in this case, I have average day, which is shown to be 682 in the software. So the simulated flow is 682, and in the field was 679. And the next one, fire flow at J10, the green, is here where it should have been in the blue line. You can easily see that here, how far we are between our simulated and our observed. So again, we're aiming for something where all our field data lines exactly or as close to that blue line. That would indicate a perfect correlation, right? 1-to-1. Okay. All right, so this is where we started, and it was important to know our initial solution. So we then said, okay, what if I reduced the C coefficient by half? And why would we do that? We recommend you do something like this to understand how sensitive your model is to certain parameters. So if you triple the C factor, is that going to change the hydraulic grade lines by a lot or just by a little? So that was what we did, and we said, okay, multiply the roughness by 0.5, don't do anything to the demands, and use the field data for the 3 conditions. Okay? And it gives us a fitness of 459. So it actually got worse. So not a good solution. Let's see what it simulated. So the fire flow observed for this particular one, let's look at some of the average days. No, actually, the fire flows are most critical. So at J31, observed 110 maybe, and it's simulating it to be 40. So definitely not a good match at all. Flows, even worse. So definitely we do not like this solution. So we went and we said, okay, what if I modify the roughness, but not by half? What if I ask Darwin to multiply the C factor for the pipes in the cast iron times 0.5, then 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, all the way up to 1.5. Same for ductile iron, knowing that the initial C factor, let's just go back here, and we can see the roughness original was 90 and 130, right? So we said, okay, go and multiply 90 times 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, and then 130 times 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, etc. And whenever you find a good match, stop. Use the field data that's good and we know about, and let us know what you found. And I found a fitness of 4.481, which is better than our original of 27.368. And yeah, it matches a little bit better, this one solution number one. But let's see what actually it's trying to suggest we should do. It's saying that the roughness, which we had originally set to 90, should be actually 135. Okay? Now remember that, what do you guys think of that solution? Cast iron, roughness coefficient of 130. So like PVC. And then ductile iron going from 130 to 90. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? So numerically, it might make sense, but we might just be compensating by errors here. So we'll say, okay, we're not so crazy about the idea that it is the roughness coefficient that's causing a problem. Let's consider that the problem might actually be the demands. So we're going to go and create another optimized run, or another run. And this time we're going to take into account both the roughness coefficient of the pipes and also the demands. And we're going to assign the same adjustment multiplier to all the commercial nodes, and then same multiplier to all the residential nodes. We're only going to use the data that we know it's good, and we're going to keep 4 solutions. And we ran it. And now we get a really good solution. Look at that, 0.076. Let's go take a look at what that means. Pretty good. Well, this one is really not that far off. It's a little farther than we like to see it, but on that line. So we're going to say that that seems good, but let's see what it ended up doing. So solution number 1, modified all the commercial demands, increased them by a factor of 1.5. So if it was originally 80, now it's 120. If it was 15, now it's 22. Seems reasonable, right? And the residential also increased them a little bit by 1.2. And the roughness, modify the cast iron by 0.6, and then it left ductile iron the same. So here is where you put your engineering helmet and you think, and you think, and you think, and you say, well, is that a good number? And you might want to go and look up roughness coefficient tables for your specific materials. There's been plenty of experiments out there that give you the expected C value for a cast iron pipe that is 40 years old. And you would expect the number to go down. So you might say, oh, that seems reasonable to lower it. And then you say, well, maybe I'm not really too sold on that one. So let's take a look at the second solution. What did it do then? Oh, same modification for the demands. This one only lowered those by 0.7, left the ductile iron to be 1. So it seems like either way, that seems to be the consensus that ductile iron should not change its roughness and cast iron should a little bit. And if you look at the simulated results, then you can see that the difference is almost 0. So it basically narrowed it down pretty close to the observed and observed data. So our model is pretty close, matching all those pressures. So once you find a solution that you like and you're happy with, you exported it to the scenario. Here it tells you, oh, what do you want to call this scenario? Let's call it something else. Calibrated model. And do you want me to explore the roughness coefficients? Yeah, new roughnesses. Do you want me to export the demands? Yeah, new demands. If you were doing leakage, you would be exporting emitter coefficients as well. If you were modifying the pipe status, whether it's a valve closed or open, you would export that. But since we didn't, we're just going to say, okay. And when we go out here, we'll find that new model, new scenario, and we'll run it. And you could go node by node to the end of the table and see that, in fact, those differences that we looked at is what is in this scenario. Okay, and there was one last step. I know we're running 5 minutes late, so I will take 2 more minutes of your time, but if you open the solution file, you will see that there were some bad data imported for average day. And when you run this with the error, so when you include that data, you're going to see that the results are very different. So here we were also taking into account demand and roughness, and if you look at the solutions, the fitness is not good anymore, but if you dig down and you see what happens, look, modify the roughness to 0.8 and 0.8, it increased the demand by quite a bit. So that's why it's so important to bring good data, because Calibrator is just crunching the numbers and it will give you some results, but it is up to you to screen that data and meticulously look at the results to see if they make engineering sense.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.